Okay. Can you all hear me in the voice chat here?
I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. We will do this episode. If it takes all evening, we will do it today. We're not canceling it again. Okay, thanks for waiting, everyone. Working through a few technical issues, as it would be, as we finally try to get to Magical Mystery Cure here on our episode flashback series of Equine Episode Examination. I don't know why this title card that I'm about to cut to here still has a star at the front, but I don't care. We're going to do this. We're going to get it done.
Doing this, man. We're making it happen.
Fucking do it. So yeah, we've been doing this for a couple weeks, but different circumstances come up IRL, and last week we were going to try and do some sort of substitute thing, but then my AC was out, and it was way too hot in here to try and stream anything, so past couple weeks have just been one thing after another of us not being able to do Triple E, but we're finally here. We're finally going to do it. We're finally going to tackle the Season 3 finale of My Little Pony. Probably the biggest episode that we've done, and probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest episode of the show itself, Magical Mystery Cure. So, gosh, let's just please, let's just not waste any more time and just dive into everyone's initial thoughts on the episode here.
One of my favorite episodes of the entire series, bar none. I used to joke for the longest time that we needed to have a musical. And I never thought that they would ever do something like that. And then they fucking did it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this episode obviously is very controversial and gets a lot of hate. But ever since this episode first premiered, it was, at the time, it was my favorite episode of the series. I love musicals, and just the fact that they did this episode as a musical just blew me away. Now, of course, we've had multiple musical episodes since then, many of them better than this episode, I would say. So they've been constantly proving it, but at the time, this was just my favorite episode. I did really like the execution, and I liked their use of the musical in order to pack so much information into a 30-minute episode. And it really was my favorite, and I never really got a lot of the hate direct. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like the whole Twilight Sparkle thing, which is fine, but I think really as an episode, I think it was really good. And given some of the stuff that happened kind of behind the scenes with this episode, it really makes me appreciate it a little more just how it actually managed to come out, I think, as a fairly, good episode. Given, the rewrites and stuff it went through in the early stages.
Really kind of surprised to hear that it was originally decided as a two-parter episode, and in a way I kind of wish it would have been, but if the way that it worked out, I mean, it still worked out fine.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't a musical, it would have worked better as a two-parter. But being what it was as a musical, I think it worked better as a one-parter. If that makes any sense. Like I think if they would have done a two-parter, they would have expanded upon it. And just dive into the story here. I never really thought this episode was rushed. I know that's kind of like the number one complaint about this episode is that it's rushed, and I don't really agree with that. I agree it's a very fast-paced episode, and it's a musical episode, and the music really helps it get through a lot of information and very, very quickly. But it never feels like rushed. It never feels like anything really had to be expanded upon that much for me. Like, sure, you could have spent more time on a lot of points in the story. You definitely could have. But I don't think it would have brought any more to the message the episode was trying to give, and and the events that perspired in the episode. I don't think it would have given them much more weight. So I don't think it was rushed in the sense that the episode was affected negatively by the pacing.
My only real complaints about not so much in regards to the message, but rather they had a potential to, expand upon the story a little bit. Like, so the main character's roles got swapped, but this doesn't happen to the main character. We barely get to see any real results before Twilight figures out how to solve the problem. And, the show has thus far really only given hints, at least up to this particular episode and this point in the series, but it's only given hints as to how exactly cutie marks work and how much they signify. And this would have been a perfect opportunity to go into the subject, but they don't, except by implication. And the fact that the dilemma was solved by the most obvious and most direct solution possible, as opposed to making them work for the solution, probably would have been a good idea on that. But
see, I think that's kind of the point, is that the episode wasn't. It used cutie marks as kind of like the problem, but the episode wasn't supposed to focus on the cutie marks. It was supposed to focus on Twilight and how far she's come over those 3 seasons and how far she's grown, and to the point where she really does, truly kind of understand, friendship and the magic of friendship and everything.
The complaints that I just mentioned were kind of answered by season 5 as it was anyway. So
yeah, of course, the whole season 5 focused a lot on cutie marks in season 5. So they did eventually get to some of that, even though of course a lot of it is still up in the air, which I think is okay. It leaves a little room for you to think on your own about. Really, the whole cutie mark thing is, I did like how it was executed in terms of the problem in the episode and the problem's solution. So, I like first of all how it's set up that earlier in the season that the book of course was set up earlier, but also the fact that the elements of harmony are at the treehouse was of course set up in the Discord episode. Keep calm and flutter on earlier in the season when Celestia's like, well, just to be safe, since Discord's on loose now, let's just have you keep the elements at your treehouse. So that directly played into kind of what happened in this when Twilight just kind of mindlessly executes the spell, as she's trying to kind of figure out how to make it work. But I just loved, the whole cutie mark swap and seeing how the other each of the main 6 kind of failed at doing the other's job, and how they each try to do it in their own way using their same personality was fun. But I really liked the whole solution to the problem, where because it was kind of very complex in terms of how it happened, when you have one of the main 6 helping one of the other main 6 to do the job that they're not supposed to do, but and then in the process of that first main 6 gets their cutie mark. So for example, Fluttershy helps. Oh gosh, who was she? She was helping Rainbow Dash. Let's go forward. So Rainbow Dash is helping Rarity with the clouds. So Fluttershy is talking to Rainbow Dash, saying, oh gosh, I'm confusing myself because it's really complicated. Because it's kind of like a three person thing, and I should have written it down beforehand because it's easy for me to get lost in it. But you have one pony singing to the next pony about helping the third pony, and then that second pony gets the correct cutie mark by helping the third pony. So it's this nice line of friendship that they kind of go around each of the main 6. And all the way around and help each other get their cutie mark back using their talent, and they're getting their talent back, and they're getting their cutie mark back, I should say, by realizing their true talent, by helping their friend do the tasks that they're supposed to do with their talent. So it's a nice way of getting them to kind of realize who they're supposed to be again by helping a friend out. Do that task, and of course all backdropped by the True Friends song. So I don't know, I guess really it was one of my favorite parts of the episode, is just that concept of how that problem was solved, and it also relates back to Twilight helping all of her friends out with friendship, and this whole episode is about her ascending as the princess of friendship and stuff like that. So it all tied back very nice.
For a second, I was hoping that it wasn't a certain someone calling me in to do a certain. How to be like, no, go away,
not today.
But this one particular call me, and I have no idea why they keep wanting to call me.
gosh, what else? I think just really my favorite parts of this episode is just the concept of it, regardless of the episode's execution. I do love how they kind of have Twilight here, meeting her sort of like end goal from the beginning, and how we can look back from this episode. And that was one of my favorite things to do back at this episode, is look back on past episodes and just see Twilight's path to getting here, and how much she had grown over those three seasons, to the point now where she was never set out to be a princess or a leader or anything like that, but she had those qualities, and she embodied all of the main six and herself, and just it was just so rewarding, just kind of looking back on that, and then leaving open, of course, new possibilities for the future, for future seasons and future episodes going forward. But even as a season finale, I would have really, our series, even as a series finale, that would have been very satisfying. Even though obviously there's a lot of other things in the series that wouldn't have been concluded by that time, and we've started concluding them in season 4, 5, and 6. It was still just a nice kind of point in Twilight's character arc there. Her rising, from being, someone who was very much a shut-in, just studying magic, to someone who was a true leader, and embodied friendship, and really understood it, and was able to help others with that. And I just really think it was executed well, just as a series as a whole, and also in this particular episode. And a lot of that, goes back to the oh gosh, now I'm getting a phone call. Everyone wants to call us. I was just gonna say really quick, a lot of that goes back to the whole Celestia scene, where we kind of do actually have those flashbacks, going back and seeing all those times. I'll be right back. Let me take this call.
Speak up from here. From what I understand, the first draft, or the final draft for the episode, was quite different before we actually got edited to the version we saw. In fact, Star Swirl, from what I understand, wasn't even mentioned in the first draft. It was, instead of Star Swirl's journal, Princess Twilight herself. Princess Celestia herself sent Twilight the crate containing immense magic power as part of her next level of study, and instructing Twilight not to open it without her, in the sense of Pandora's box. Now, unable to help herself, Twilight gives into curiosity and opens it, which causes the Q mark swap to occur, and not even Princess Celestia can do anything about it, except to tell Twilight, what have you done? And by reversing the spell and doing something that even Celestia couldn't, then Twilight would earn her wings and title as princess. And that was supposed to have been, written as a grand finale, because it was uncertain at the time that the show would even go into a fourth season. So, but then the fourth season did, and things happened, shit went down, and the script was taken out of his hands and was edited down in the one episode, and some of the plot elements were removed from the episode and shifted over to the season 4 premiere. So, and yet some plans still blame him, and for all that, the episode dead.
Yes, everybody thanks M.A. Larson.
Well, the funny thing is, in one of the, one of the more recent interviews, he was saying that he actually, the finished episode actually didn't have a lot besides the basic overall outline of what he actually had written, because as we know, episodes are written very early on in the process. They're obviously that's one of the first things that happens in the creative process. So so that happens year and a half at least before the episode airs. So obviously it was written very early on, and at that time it was written as the series finale, because Hasbro hadn't ordered any more episodes. So after it was written, M.A. Larson was done with it. The episode was written, and sometime after that, who knows how that episode actually was, but sometime after that, obviously, season 4, etc., was greenlit for the series. So so yeah, it got some rewrites from people that weren't M.A. Larson, probably Megan McCarthy, and some of the other senior staff there, reworked the episode into it to make it not be so much the series finale, and set up a lot of stuff going forward into the episode. So I'm not really sure how much was actually M.A. Larson, because he seemed to say that a lot of the episode wasn't stuff that he had actually written in the end, just because of all those late changes that came late into the game when the series was renewed. Yeah, I mean, the episode still has a very kind of series finale vibe, just because Twilight's journey is really one of the key points of the series. Obviously, Twilight is the main character of the series, especially in these first 3 seasons, especially the first 2 seasons of it. She's very much the main character and the main focus, and so her main arc is coming to a close in this episode, and then opening up a new arc for her. So it very much does have that kind of finite, definite feel to it, just because of that. Of course, I'm glad that they continued, because not only do we get a lot more stuff that we get to see with Twilight going forward, and her character continuing to build as kind of learning to become even more of a leader and taking more leadership roles, we get to see other characters in the show kind of realize their destinies. And we've seen that in the past 2 seasons here with Rarity and Rainbow Dash, and the CMC finally getting their key marks. Can you imagine the series ending at the season 3 finale there, and the CMC never actually got their cutie marks? So by continuing, we've been able to continue the series and kind of conclude and expand upon other characters' arcs as well. Yeah, season 3 was the first. That was the first season that I watched as a whole, like as it aired. I came in like halfway through season 2, a little bit before that, but I wasn't actually watching any episodes live because I was still catching up on the series from the beginning. Yeah. So this was the first kind of ride coming through. I know Tim mentioned earlier in chat, just kind of we of course, if you weren't around at that time in the fandom. What had happened is during season 3, early on, I forget exactly when, but it did leak out that Twilight was going to be a princess. I think it was like an image that leaked out, like kind of like the standard stock image they use now with her wings, and of course,
also toys.
Yeah, it's always toys. And so that information did leak out. Earlier. And of course, that caused, is this real? Is this fake? And it, of course, just caused, a mad frenzy. And if you weren't around for it, you think some of the drama today is bad sometimes. That was like really kind of like the first major thing that kind of shook the fandom at that time, the biggest thing. So it was the whole season 3. It was just like a lot of people were just very anxious, and I wasn't sure about it. I mean, I like the series. I trusted in the staff. I believe in M.A. Larson, if you remember those badges. But it was definitely like one of those things where it's like, wow, they're either I guess it makes sense in the long run, but they're already doing that now. And it's like, is this going to be the series finale? And it was just like. It was, very like unsure. Like I'm interested to see how they execute this and what they do, because it definitely caught me off guard. I guess that's the main thing about it. It wasn't that I was worried or anything. It just really caught me off guard. And looking back, it does make sense. But at the time, it was just like, what, really? Especially so early in season 3, for it. But that was kind of there's still people out there that never recovered from that initial reveal. That their whole lives just apparently went down the drain when that happened. For that. Oh gosh, I'll be right back. I gotta deal with something really quick.
Let's say who was like so totally against, just Princess Twilight just gaining her wings in the princess title, that even now to this day, I mean, like, he's still technically a fan of the show, but like, he's so close-minded about it that, like, the only series that he even acknowledges are the first season, the second season, and almost the entirety of season 3, the sole exception of Magical Mystery Cure. Beyond that, everything else beyond seasons 4 through 6, the Equestria Girls movies, none of it ever happened. And I'm just like, I'm just sort of putting my chin on my hand here, propping it up, and I'm like, just looking at this thinking, seriously? The hell is wrong with you, bud?
Yeah, I know. I remember when we were on the other side, there was one person, I won't mention names, but there was one of the moderators on the other side who didn't like Princess Twilight to the point where when he streamed the season 4 finale, he was using the Wii U Netflix. He was using the Wii U Netflix, and he'd hide the screen every time Twilight used her alicorn powers, and he would just say something in chat that another character would do the thing that Twilight was doing.
And I don't even care, to be honest.
Yeah. I was just naming that as another example off the top of my head of people who were still against, the Alicorn Twilight thing.
Okay, I'm back. Let's see.
Because I tried to stay out of the drama, because obviously Alicorn Twilight then never bothered me, because I think, like, Ben or what I think it was like you, Ben, like you all, even after Alicorn Twilight appeared, stupid Mike, you were the one who was I think you were always optimistic on what they were where the show was going to go and what possibilities Alicorn Twilight was going to open up, and I was kind of the same way when it happened.
I'm just trying to in the chat here myself. Good.
I would say I was kind of curious, kind of like what Tim was mentioning here in the chat room about. Let me scroll back and see what he said.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that. Yeah, Tim said it was right after the Discord episode. Yeah, because it was like, I know a lot of people didn't like the Discord episode too because of Discord being reformed. So it was like the double drama bomb. Anyway, continue.
Don't think they'll screw this up. I mean, they're DHX, but we'll just have to wait and see when it airs. And it's kind of like the same thing with everything on Twilight. My first reaction was that of surprise, and my second reaction was, oh my god, they're actually doing it. But then the third one was like, okay, well, I don't know what to really think of this after this. I'm curious. That was my main thing. I'm curious as to where they're going to take it. I don't think they're going to mess anything up, but I'm sort of wanting to know how they're going to take this, how it's going to develop, if Twilight's going to change as a character, or if she's going to be getting any more she's going to be gaining any more powers or any more responsibilities, or if she's going to be getting a castle of her own, which quite incidentally she did. Not in the way that I imagined, but
I did like how they, once we got into kind of the Twilicorn phase after this episode, they did kind of slowly build up kind of who she was as a princess character. It wasn't like we get to season 4 and it's like, oh, here's your task, here's what you are, here's your castle, here's your people. Have fun, Twilight. It was like, each two-parter, season 4 into season 5 was her kind of learning a different thing about that with, and who she is, the princess of friendship, and gaining her castle, and whatnot.
Even today, that whole thing continues to grow into season 6, where they're trying to learn how to effectively be a good teacher to Starlight.
Yep. And it's kind of coming full circle. And that's what I was really hoping that they were going to do, is have the whole thing come full circle, where from the beginning, of course, Twilight is taken under Celestia's wing as her protege and learns a lot from Celestia, and has a lot of learning time on her own too, as Celestia kind of guides her. And now we're kind of have Twilight doing the same thing with Starlight, and I'm glad they did it, because I like circular kind of things that happen like that. Oh God, Mary Sue! Don't even say that. That was, I swear, that is that's all you heard of back then. If you weren't in the fandom in the end of season 3 there, and after, during and after this episode, that was probably the term that was dropped more than any other word in the in the Brony fandom at the time. Was people, of course, worried that she was going to become a Mary Sue, and of course that's all at the time was very, very baseless, because there was nothing in the episode that hinted that she was becoming a Mary Sue. It was just literally people complaining that, oh, now Twilight's a Mary Sue, because going forward she might be a Mary Sue. It was really weird. There's absolutely nothing to say that she's going to be that, or that she's some sort of perfect person, that, pony that can't make a mistake and blah blah blah. But now she's a Mary Sue because of this episode, even though we have no idea how they're going to use her going forward.
Oh, Ben.
Sorry, I saw the pun and I just had to take it.
But of course, I think a lot of the people that made those complaints didn't really know exactly what a Mary Sue was anyway. It's kind of one of those terms that's dropped a lot by people that I don't think people necessarily understand exactly what a Mary Sue is. But of course, we know from subsequent seasons that Twilight is anything but a Mary Sue, and while she has a lot more responsibilities and taking on new roles and new leadership positions and teaching positions, she's still very much her old Twilight. She herself didn't change that much, and she still has her quirks and her issues, and and stuff like that, and that's why I never got going forward. And it was like, everyone's complaining about this. Like, I don't see why you would think they would do that to her character going forward. Just because she's a princess doesn't mean she's automatically a Mary Sue, unless you're just using the trope that that princesses are Mary Sues. That fact. So it has to be. I don't know. I never really got that. And that was one of the things that really made me very angry about a lot of the reaction towards the episode, even before it premiered, just because of stupid things like that.
I do have to admit, though, even though it still exists today and it hasn't, completely gone away entirely, I do admit that it has gone down significantly since, Twilight has been revealed to be mainly her, her usual self. All she's got is just a pair of wings, and that's basically about it. Other than that, she's still her adorable self. Mm-hmm. She's still a nerd. She's still, a dork. But and that's just the thing. That's why I don't, get it with. It's kind of like what Tim's saying here in chat room. It's like some of the people that I've talked to, my one buddy especially, who I mentioned beforehand, he's like hating on these episodes, and I'm like, dude, have you even fucking watched them?
Mm-hmm.
And invariably, no, he hasn't. I'm like, dude, just shut your pie hole for once and watch the fucking episode. You might actually like it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is people don't even want to try and give the episode a chance or see where the series goes from there, because they're just so opposed by the thing which was very clearly set up to me as something that was going to happen. It surprised me that it happened when it did. I especially going, as we know at the time that the series was continuing after season 3. But it seemed pretty obvious to me since I started watching the series that it was kind of setting up for Twilight to kind of be a successor, sort of, maybe, for Celestia, or at least, be a peer to her, as, she's Celestia's protege. She's training. Obviously, Celestia thinks really highly of her, and she's the leader of a group of elite, ponies, main 6, that each embody an element, an element of harmony. And I don't know, it seemed logical to me that something like this would happen. So for people to flip the fuck out that Twilight is becoming a princess is crazy. And the alicorn thing is just, it's just comes with the princess thing. So I just never got that.
Another thing I think is that some people were like being a pro, her and the rest of the main actually really hasn't.
I think your mic keeps muting itself.
We're just Jay's mic out back, and we're just gonna shoot it like all Yeller.
It does, but it didn't hit. But it didn't turn into the mute sign this time, and the entire time I said that. So,
I will say that I think this episode did signify the series jumping the shark in the terms that I think the series got substantially better after this episode. I love season 1 and 2, but season 4 and especially like season 5 just were on, I think, on a whole nother level for me.
Is that you're thinking of that TV trope is describing is called growing the beard.
I've never heard of that before, but okay.
It's in regards to Star Trek, specifically the Next Generation series, where the character Riker, who was the lieutenant, was part of the cast, but the show only started getting better when, in the second season, when Lieutenant Riker actually grew out his beard.
I don't think I've ever seen Riker without his beard. That's crazy. I don't watch Star Trek that much, but I just...
to be perfectly honest, I don't watch it either. I've got the whole season on Netflix. I've been meaning to sit down and watch through it, but I haven't.
I just watch the John Delancey episodes nowadays. I wonder why.
Gosh. What else about this, the story and the writing of this? Let's see. It was definitely you can kind of divide this episode in two. And that's the whole first part, of say first 2/3 of the episode is the whole Cutie Mark problem and Twilight solving it. And then the last third is kind of like establishing her as an alicorn, as a princess, and having that ceremony and getting all of that out of the way. So going forward in season 4, we can just kind of start off right with her already being in the princess and kind of learning the ropes and dealing with problems. But I don't think that can be split into 2 parts, at least as it was, because the second part of the episode with her, for what it was, I think the first part could have been a whole episode in itself. They could have easily expanded that a little bit. But the second half of the episode with her, with the whole ceremonies and all of that, on setting up all of that, couldn't have been an episode on its own. Really, unless they pulled some more stuff from the season 1 premiere for that. And I think that's kind of why they were saying it's kind of a 3-part episode, with this being the first part and then the season 4 premiere being parts 2 and 3. See, but was it really a 2-parter? I don't think it was ever in any stage of the episode actually in production. I don't think it was ever a 2-parter, at least from what I've heard. Because I know, I'm pretty sure M.A. Larson said that from the time he was writing it, it was always written as 1 part. It was rewritten a lot since he wrote it, but it was written as 1 part. So anything of it being a 2-parter would have been much earlier in the pre-planning stages of it. And it would have gotten shot down long before much of the episode, took place, maybe outside of an outline. At least from what I've heard in interviews. So I don't even know if that's would be a relic of that. I think it's just kind of how the episode has to naturally be divided, because you have to have the whole setup to her actually, solving the problem, present the problem, solve the problem, and her ascending, and then you have to have a little bit afterwards of kind of the epilogue of her, be realizing she's a princess, having her, having the ceremony, the ceremonies and all this other stuff that has to kind of happen at the end, to fit in with everything else. So it's just kind of naturally has to be divided that way. No, MLP didn't jump the shark until season 5.
They jumped the shark.
Anything else? Oh, what else about the story and the and the writing here? I mean, I remember one of the comments I originally saw during this episode was, "Holy crap!" I think Daniel Ingram wrote the entire episode for it, because this is, of course, the first kind of musical episode that we had in the series like that, which caught a lot of people off surprise. But really, I think he wound up writing a good deal of it because of the lyrics. Do tell, Tim.
Honest, I don't really remember much about the actual writing because there were just so many songs.
I think I have something else to talk about. I'm just waiting to see what Tim is writing here. Oh, yeah, that whole thing. My favorite part about the whole thing about, oh, Twilight's going to have to leave Ponyville and leave the main 6 and leave her friends, and the show's going to change. Oh, it's going to I hate change. Oh, my God. But I love how they then, in the season 4 premiere, they pretty much directly addressed that and had the beginning of the episode of, her friends going back to Ponyville while Twilight is staying there in Canterlot. And her, worrying about this and being very sad that her, she's being separated from her friends. So I like how they took that and it was just like actually had that happen at the first part of the season 4 episode there before they, she obviously reunited with them, and that whole episode was kind of having to do with that too. And we'll talk about that more when we get there. But the whole episode was like Twilight trying to do stuff on her own, and in the end realizing that it does take all of her friends and all of the main 6 together to solve that problem, even if she is the princess and the leader. She still requires all of her friends and always has for that strength that she has. And I like how that whole season 4 premiere was pretty much dealing with that. That was like the basic part of the episode there. Pretty much just directly taking on that criticism or that worry. Oh yeah, and of course there's the whole thing about, is Twilight now immortal and she's gonna have to watch her friends die, and people like making a big deal about this, like it doesn't, even though it doesn't pertain anything to the series at hand right now. Although
it gives us good fan fiction.
Although I believe it was said that she's not immortal by someone on staff.
Made it. They stated that Twilight would not outlive her friends. She's not immortal or anything like that.
Twilight dies first, canon. But I mean, I think if we want to get into the specifics of that, even though nothing has been officially done, I guess my headcanon of that, or logically thinking why that would be the reason why Twilight would not be well, gosh, my mind just went blank. Twilight would still be able to die while Celestia and Luna have obviously been around for thousands of years, is because Celestia and Luna are actually of the Alicorn race, and they actually are Alicorns. Whereas, of course, Twilight is not. I mean, she kind of ascended to an Alicorn, but she wasn't like she kind of was adopted into the alicorn race, more to say, whereas she wasn't just like actually an alicorn. And same with Cadence for it. I mean, that's what I would say the reason why she would not be not be able to die. Immortal. That's the word. I kept trying to think of the word immortal again. That was on the tip of my tongue, and I kept forgetting it. That she's not immortal. Yeah, I've definitely seen the headcanons. I always liked those, that Twilight actually did die and magical mystery occur and everything after. It's just the afterlife.
Still, the Pony Anthology 3 was like where they actually grabbed M.A. Larson and they actually had him jump on screen and like, she's dead! The end!
You gotta love M.A. Larson. He's a good guy. He's a funny person. So let's discuss kind of what happened in this episode, kind of in terms of, because there is some things story-wise that about what happened and why we all think it happened. I will say that a lot of things happen in this episode and they're not directly explained. You can infer a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that happened that aren't directly explained in the episode. For example, the whole thing with the spell and kind of what the spell was and how did Twilight complete it. And I think this took me a while. I really had to think about this afterwards, because you have to kind of deal with the spell, Twilight solving the spell, Twilight solving the problem, Twilight finishing the spell, and then the aftermath of her finishing the spell when she ascends. I think a lot of people see this as Twilight finished the spell, and that's what solved the problem, and that's what caused her friends to regain their cutie marks back. Was her solving the spell. That was her solving the spell. How I see it, how I think it is Twilight actually being able to finish the spell in the end isn't what caused her to solve the problem. That isn't the solution to the problem. That wasn't what caused her friends to get their correct cutie mark back. What happened in the True True Friends song about her using what I talked about before, her using her friend's abilities to help the other friend that was trying to do the wrong ability, do that ability. And that whole kind of psychological thing. It was a very psychological conclusion. That was the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem wasn't magic. The solution to getting their cutie marks wasn't Twilight casting a spell, and it wasn't Twilight completing the spell that she originally cast. It was her using her knowledge and using her smarts and experience with friendship to be able to have her friends solve each other's problems, and in the basis realize what their true callings were again and again, like having a second cutie mark moment, a second moment of them gaining their cutie marks in their lives, and that would be regaining their cutie marks. In the end, her being able to solve that problem during that song is what gave her the inspiration to be able to then finish Star Swirl's spell. She never actually casts Star Swirl's spell again. I don't believe. You can argue that she does, and maybe that's what causes that to happen, her ascension to happen. But I don't think she actually casts it. She just is able to actually finish it, and by finishing that spell, that is kind of like the last piece of the puzzle, I guess, for her to gain her Alicorn status. Is that she is able to fully understand friendship by solving this problem that she's brought upon herself using friendship, and then complete a spell that no one else has been able to complete, which is kind of like pushes her and into that. I've seen some people say that maybe the spell itself is a spell to make you an Alicorn, and that's what Star Swirl was trying to do, was trying to make a spell that turns you into an Alicorn. And I mean, I can see how you can kind of argue that, especially since the spell, the uncompleted spell, backfired and changed cutie marks around, and Twilight completes the spell and it instantly turns into an Alicorn. I don't really think that, but I could see how you could argue that. But I think in the end she gained her Alicorn status because she proved once and for all that she completely understands friendship, and she was able to solve this problem by mastering friendship, and was able to then complete the spell, showing that she was, had a lot of magical prowess. I think that was one of the things that was most legitimately discussed. I mean, we're talking about a lot of stupid arguments like she's going to be Mary Sue, and I just hate that she has wings. I think one of the most legitimate kind of arguments and discussions to be had about this episode is kind of how and what caused her to transcend into unicorn status, and kind of what solved the problem. And that's how I, after a lot of thinking, wound up to kind of view this episode. I don't know how everyone else kind of views what happened leading up to her ascension. Just kind of read what people are saying in chat here while I was talking. I wish I could read the chat and talk at the same time, but I'm not that talented.
The reason why Celestia chose Twilight wasn't so much that she just saw leadership qualities in Twilight, but also because of the fact that she saw a lot of potential. As we saw right from the very beginning in season 1 during the Cutie Mark Chronicles, Twilight exemplified a massive power surge of magic during the Sonic Rainboom, and was able to transform Spike into a major massive beast. And when Twilight got her cutie mark specifically exemplified magic. And we don't really know a whole lot about cutie marks itself, but certain cutie marks will sort of exemplify, we do know that cutie marks exemplify talent or specific abilities that a particular pony is best at. But the way that Twilight's cutie mark exemplifies is just, it's basically magic in its entirety. Just whatever, not specifically stage magic that Trixie's part of, or
or the magic that other unicorns have.
Or just it's just magic in general, just blanket magic. And Celestia may have probably got that from Mark, even from coming to see what her, what this all was about, because she saw, the girl in Spike's head smashing through the roof, and obviously, a dragon that just sort of grows 30 stories in 30 seconds is, you gotta investigate something like that. Also, Pogo servers are still down, but anyway, she's
no!
Yeah. She goes to investigate, and she is able to fix the problem that Twilight was able to cause. And not only was she able to fix those problems, but she was also able to contain that massive power surge. And obviously, seeing something like that, with that sort of massive power surge come from a filly that small, I mean, that right there is just endless potential, practically.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because up to this point in the series, that's everything you said is true, and she sees a lot of she saw a lot of magical potential in her and whatnot. But it's funny because looking at the season 4 premiere kind of brings a new light into that too, because not only did she see the magical ability that Twilight possesses after the Sonic Rainboom, Twilight also gets her cutie mark. And as we know in the season 4 premiere, in the Tree of Harmony flashback, when Celestia and Luna first find the Tree of Harmony, they have both of their cutie marks on it, and they also have Twilight's cutie mark on it. So she would have also known, regardless of the magic she's shown there, when she saw that cutie mark, that she was important, because that was the same exact cutie mark that she would have saw on the Tree of Harmony in the past. So even the season 4 brings a whole new perspective on that.
I completely forgot about that. That's actually a very good point. Yeah.
I mean, like everything you said is true. I'm just saying, like it too. It's just like that brings a whole nother perspective to it as well, to that premiere episode or the not the premiere episode, but you know that flashback episode from season 1.
Bring up that good point because I'm like, that's something else I completely forgot about. And but then again, you know me, I never rewatched the episode, so you know, no one to blame but myself for that. So
and yeah, what we said about Sunset is true as well. That's something we'll probably discuss when we get to the Equestria Girls movie. Is that yes, Sunset was Celestia's kind of protege before she found Twilight. I think Sunset's older than Twilight too. So she found her. I think she was actively looking for a protege, but then of course when she sees Twilight, and I think she knew that was the one. And maybe that that goes. I have to reread that comic, but I think that kind of goes into why Sunset kind of also could have left, is because at that point I believe Sunset would have still been in Equestria, and not have left then. So there would be a time overlap there where Celestia is kind of has teaching both of them, and I'm sure she gave Twilight a lot more attention because of that cutie, because of her cutie mark, and because of she knew that was important. Twilight died for your sins.
she did blow the fuck up.
Yep.
Upon ascension, I don't know.
I think one of my favorite parts of this episode, writing wise, and this kind of ties into the characters, but we've already kind of dove into both. It's kind of hard not to in this episode. Is after the ascension, I really love Celestia's speech after that, because she's talking about she really does explain a lot of kind of what has happened in that she Twilight was shown that she embodies all of the elements herself. So I just loved how Celestia went through each of the main six and like said their element, but she didn't just say their element. She didn't say like pink pie, laughter, honesty, blah blah blah. She used a much better term, I think, for each of them. That whoever wrote that was great. I don't know if it was Larson or someone later on, but whoever wrote these is just so great because the synonyms that she gives for each of their elements, I think, fit those characters a lot more. And someone's gonna have to bring up the transcript and say those because I don't remember all of them. But I know like Applejack's was integrity instead of honesty, and of course Twilight's was not friendship, it was leadership, or not magic, it was leadership. Pinkie Pie's was optimism. Rainbow Dash's was I forget Rainbow Dash's. Someone's gonna have to bring them up because I forget the rest. But I just know that that was definitely one of my favorite things in the episode was kind of those rebranded synonyms of the of all of the elements because it just fit them so much more. Each of the characters better than the simpler terms that they actually wound up using in the series. They were a little bit bigger words too, so I can understand why they wouldn't have used them as kind of like the main words throughout the series for a series aimed at smaller children. But I just really loved that moment. Yeah, thank you, Tim. So Rarity was Charity, which great because it also rhymes with their name. But I guess fits. So Compassion was Fluttershy. Devotion was Rainbow Dash. Integrity was Applejack, as I said. Optimism was Pinkie Pie, and leadership. And I think one of the best things about this is one of the and I'm sure we've had this conversation before, but one of the main complaints about the elements themselves is how easy it is to kind of switch Applejack and Rainbow Dash and their elements, with Applejack being sometimes seeming like a more loyal pony, and for it, and Rainbow Dash sometimes being brutally honest for it. And I know a lot of people say about that, say that a lot every year. But with these other terms here, it fits both Rainbow Dash and Applejack a lot more and a lot better, while still retaining honesty and loyalty, with Rainbow Dash being devotion, and she is obviously a very devoted thing. She's devoted to everything she does, and I think that's such a much better term than loyalty, and of course and integrity for Applejack, which again it just means so much more than just plain old honesty, and I think it embodies her character so much better, integrity rather than just being honest. And it's kind of like honesty. A lot of people, joke about that with Applejack not being able to tell a lie, and whenever she actually does try to lie or fib, it's like, oh, she told a lie, she's blah blah blah. But with integrity, you don't get that. Integrity is a lot more fitting for what Applejack is, and it fits her character in so many more ways. Sorry, I'm rambling about Applejack again, but I guess really did love those kind of synonyms they used in this episode, and of course having Twilight embody all of them. So whoever did actually write those, kudos to them, because I wish they would use those more instead of what they actually call the elements.
If we can get that officially changed.
What did you say, Mr. Ben? I think we missed the beginning of what you said there.
Petition to maybe see if we can get that officially changed.
Oh yeah.
Wildly successful.
Oh yeah.
I did like how at the end of the episode, the last thing that's said is Twilight saying everything's going to be fine, which I guess I always found hilarious, being that this is the episode that probably one of the episodes, if not the episode, that caused the most kind of drama directly in the fandom, and people worried about the show's future and stuff. And Twilight just ends the episode by smiling at the camera. Everything's going to be just fine. I always liked
And she and then she falls down, ashes off screen right after the fade out.
I know that's something a lot of other people complained about, how at the end of the episode she kind of flies at the camera and doesn't seem to have any trouble flying, and then season 4 kind of opens up where obviously she's having to learn how to fly. She can't just fly out the bat. And I don't think it's a big of a problem, because you have to realize, I think a lot of people that complained about that just don't understand how a musical works, and that ending of the episode is within the context of a musical number. And things happen in musical numbers that aren't actually happening in world. They're only happening for us, the viewers, to help us kind of, either be entertained or get a message across. That isn't like all of Ponyville or all of Canterlot is actually out there singing in the world there. That's just something how we're viewing the scene as viewers, to be it for them to get across a lot of information in an entertaining way. So her flying at the camera was just kind of in the context of a musical number. It was, it wasn't her actually flying. It was just a way to end the episode that, kind of signified her now having wings and being ascended for it. So, it isn't like all of Ponyville is actually singing in the songs, like what Mike Cuny Mercury's telling me, or True Friend or anything. It's just, anytime in the series, there's very few exceptions, like obviously the Kingdom Crusaders song in season 2 actually did happen in World, because they're actually singing in a talent show. So there is exceptions, but most of the time in a musical number, we're viewing that as an outside eye, as a musical.
Or Rarity Takes Manhattan, where they actually do.
Well, see, that also didn't happen. That song also didn't happen in the World. It was just kind of Rainbow Dash made that comment right before it as kind of like a comedic fourth wall break for it, So,
well, like I said before, for people complaining that Twilight was flying fine in season 3 and suddenly wasn't season 4. It's like I just said, she fell and crashed right after the fade out at the end of the finale. There, problem solved.
And that's one of the cool things. I'm just going off on what Vin was saying here, but I did like about Equestria Girls too, is before we even get to season 4 and the other 2 parts of this kind of, if you want to look at these 3 episodes, Magical Mystery Cure and season 4 as kind of a 3-parter, in between that we did have Equestria Girls, and they even tackle Twilight and some of her problems and questioning her, alicorn status right from the get-go in that movie too, which I did like as well. Anything else for story and writing before we move on to characters? I think that's about all I can think of points I wanted to make to discuss. Anyone else have any points or any, criticisms of the story or anything else you heard people criticizing about the story or writing before we move on?
Fresh again. I mean, am I coming through okay to you guys, or
you're coming through? But sometimes you're coming through fine now. But sometimes it seems like there's silence, and then you start talking, and I feel like you've been talking longer than I'm actually hearing.
Yeah. Well, with me, it's also the problem on my mic, but actually been since we've been using Discord, I've kind of been having that issue too, where you kind of cut it out.
You may want, if you're not using it already, Mr. Ben, you might want to enable the push to talk option instead of the auto voice detect option, because it might be taking a little longer on your computer for some reason to detect your speaking, and so it's not actually having us be able to hear you right away. That would be my guess, hopefully. And if you're speaking right now, I can't hear you. You dropped out. Well, while we're waiting for that to figure out, let's move on to the character. Well, relation to the season arc theme is the next slide. I always forget about this one. I mean, I guess, yeah, there's a lot of relation to the season arc. There's a lot of relation to a series arc right here, and we've already talked about that, so we won't go into that again. We will say that, of course, the book in this episode, and this is one thing I don't think we've mentioned yet, is the book in the episode, of course, that Twilight, that has the Star Swirl spell in it, was the book that was premiered at the end of the season 3 premiere there with Celestia and Luna kind of making that book appear at the end of that. So that's the same book that they were working on towards. So I guess that was kind of what one of their ultimate plans was, that eventually we're gonna have Twilight try and finish this spell in this book and see if she's able to do that as like one of her final tests. See, is the stream dead? Everything's fine on my end. Can you all hear us? Are we okay? Everything looks fine on mine. Nothing's dropped from me streaming to stream up. So.
Yeah, it streams up on my.
Okay. Well, all I can say is refresh. Because it looks like everyone else is okay. So that was my first concern, is that there's something I can fix. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the character and characterization discussion. We've already done a lot of character discussion, obviously, already, but anything else specifically that people want to talk about character-wise here? And we can start with any character you want. I think I guess I'll start. I think one of the main things to discuss character-wise episode here is the whole middle part of the episode, or the beginning and middle, where we have all of the main 6 have the incorrect cutie marks and how they actually tackle the situations that they're in. I think one of the other, before we get into that, I think one of the other kind of discussion points that I've always had for this episode, talking about it with other people, is it kind of goes into what a cutie mark is and kind of what it does. So like a lot of people, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of different viewpoints on kind of why the whole cutie mark situation happened and how it affected the whole world. And a lot of it is stuff that you really have to either infer or just kind of headcanon yourself. And that is like, so was the town's memories like rewritten? And, have they always been doing this their entire lives? Or was it just the main 6 memories that were, rewritten? Why are they doing what they have? Why do they get the cutie mark that they had? And kind of like, what happened? Like, what happened after Twilight cast this spell? Why, how did they get their cutie marks if they're so bad at what they're doing? Those are all questions that I've seen raised in discussions before. How I've always viewed it is actually, give me one second. Let me deal with something real quick, and then I will say that. 'Cause to discuss like anything, anyone else have any thoughts on that whole thing?
Oh
with the
yeah,
Dream?
like explain like how exactly they got in those situations. Like how exactly how exactly did Pinky end up working for the Apple family if she because at that point she didn't know that she might have been possibly related to them. So how'd she end up getting stuck
Kind of
working on
hilarious
that?
in hindsight, really.
I mean, granted, she had experience on the rock farm, but that wasn't farming apples. And when she got to the and on the apple farm with her.
Sorry, but whenever anyone says like I grew up on a rock farm, I just still think of the mental image of like Pinkie Pie just playing bass guitar with her sisters doing like lead and stuff like that.
Yeah, but seriously, how did they end up? But Rain posed a good question. How did stuff like Pinky ended up getting a job on the Apple family farm, especially before Applejack got her cutie mark restored? We didn't see any of the Apple family there anyway. So
I'm really more concerned. Well, not really more concerned, but I'm really more intrigued by the fact that not only did like Twilight, get up and find that her friends have like swapped cutie marks and swapped destinies, but like nobody else in the Ponyville, either noticed it or questioned it, or up until like right during the song of like True Friend when Pinky got her cutie mark back and she's like, come on everyone, I want to see you smile, and everyone's like, Pinky! Like nobody pointed out that, okay, hey, our resident weather mare is now a unicorn. Wasn't it when it was supposed to have been a Pegasus? Nobody pointed out that this seemed kind of strange or unusual at all. And I'm kind of thinking that not only did this spell not only like change cutie marks and destinies, but it also warped memories as well. Except for the actual caster. And it was only fixed like piece by piece when the individual cutie marks were changed back to their proper proper owner.
I'm back. Yeah, I brought food. Yeah. So I guess how I always kind of saw it is I think a lot of people that were discussing this were just kind of thinking about it too hard, and kind of not thinking sort of like how this is done magically. Is what happens is obviously the main six each have their own cutie marks, their own jobs, their own talents. So what do we do if we... So what happens is the spell swapped their cutie marks as is in this time, in the current time, but didn't swap their talents. So pretty much the whole history is just like boom, right there for those main five. And so they're stuck with having their cutie marks changed, but their talents and their pasts, of what they did to get those original talents are not changed. And so this episode, all they do is they're trying to do what they think they're supposed to do because that's what their cutie mark is telling them to do, hence the song. But they still have their original talents. So that of course leads to a whole bunch of issues. And you can, anything else beyond that is just stuff that you would have to, headcanon in terms of the town, or, if everyone's memories was rewritten, which I don't think was the case. I think it was just the main six being, they have their cutie marks swapped and nothing else. It didn't swap anything but their cutie marks, and then that forced them to try and be doing stuff that they just absolutely fail at doing within that time frame of the episode. Yeah, I mean, obviously they still as we see later in the next in the next song is they obviously still have the talents that they're good at. So they haven't changed as people. The only thing that's changed was their cutie mark, and them having the wrong cutie mark for what their talent is. So it's like, what if they were, got their cutie mark, back then, but they got the wrong cutie mark, and so now they have to spend their whole lives, Fluttershy trying to be funny or whatever.
That also brings up a possibility. Not so much a possibility, but just kind of an idea that I've kind of find it interesting to think about. It is specifically said that Twilight was able to change she was able to complete the spell that Star Swirl was unable to, because this spell was Star Swirl's doing. But it kind of leads me to wonder that, okay, if Star Swirl did this beforehand and he was never able to figure out the situation, how many times has Star Swirl possibly may have, cast this particular spell? How many lives has he may have potentially ruined because of this?
I guess it depends on what the spell is doing, because if it seems to only have an effect on the main six, on the elements of harmony themselves. So I don't think in the past it necessarily would have had an effect on other people. It would have had an effect on the elements. And we don't know what he was trying to do with this spell. We just knew the effects of the unfinished spell, and that he wasn't able to do it. And the reason he wasn't able to do it is because Star Swirl didn't understand friendship. He had no experience with friendship or anything, so he wasn't able to complete the spell, whatever it was supposed to do, because of that lack of friendship experience. And that's why Twilight in the end is able to finish it. But of course, it's never stated in the episode what the spell does, and we never see Twilight execute the finished spell. I would infer that it has something to do with the elements of harmony, being that the unfinished spell wound up swapping them around. But yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine as to what the spell was supposed to do. It could be something along the lines of activating it, because as we know, elements of harmony existed before Celestia and Luna, and they found the elements of harmony to defeat Discord, and we learned that in the season 4 premiere. We know from the book and other literature, the Elements of Harmony book, that Star Swirl was around before Celestia and Luna was there and took part in bringing them to Equestria to rule. So it could have been something where Star Swirl, way before Celestia and Luna, was trying to harness the power of the elements of harmony, but was unable to do so. He was unable to finish this spell, to do whatever he was trying to do to harness the elements, and he was not able to finish it because he didn't understand friendship. And it wasn't until much, much later, after Celestia and Luna were around, and probably after Star Swirl was long gone, that Discord came around, and then they remembered the elements of harmony, which I'm sure Star Swirl had told them about, and then the whole thing about them having to find them to defeat Discord, and they found them and used them to defeat Discord, and they were able to use them because they were alicorns. But I'm guessing it has something with like Star Swirl just trying to use the elements before Celestia and Luna was even there, and he was unable to finish the spell, and it winds up just messing with the elements. I mean, but of course, I'm just inferring all this, and that's all just purely headcanon. But the spell has to be something to do with the elements of harmony, because that's the only thing it really affected. Let's talk about the all the main six, the rest of the main six, and they're trying to do the wrong talents. What does everyone have to say about all that?
Let's see what we got here. Where do I have my list? Yeah, I do find it interesting. Kind of, well, not so much comical, but just so much, both kind of equal parts comical and kind of terrifying, that Rainbow Dash somehow managed to wind up getting tied up and placed in a cooking pot by animals that are largely herbivores. And it's okay. You know you messed up something fierce when a bunch of plant eaters somehow managed to tie you up with the intention of cooking you alive.
Well, we know how brash and outspoken Rainbow Dash can be, so she must have said something to really piss him off.
They'll cook her and feed her to the Manicore.
I did like how, I really think that they chose, I mean, there's obviously a lot of combinations that they could have gone with each of the main six and what talent they actually wound up getting stuck with after the spell was cast in this episode. And I really think they chose the right one for each of them, just because of how opposite of each character it was for each of them. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could go, like, you could have Fluttershy have Rarity's talent, you know, but a lot of the main six do actually share some talents together. Rarity obviously is the big fashionista. She's very talented with sewing, you know, with making dresses and designing and everything. But we do know that Fluttershy is good with sewing, and is from the comics. We know that she has designed like knitting and stuff like that. So if they would have had Fluttershy do Rarity's role, she might have been able to somewhat do it. Obviously nowhere near as good as Rarity, but she wouldn't have necessarily failed hard. They gave each of the main six another talent that they knew they would fail hard at doing, and like the exact opposite of their talent. So we have Rainbow Dash trying to control critters on the ground. We have Fluttershy trying to be a comedian. She's trying to be Pinkie Pie, one of the most, you know, outspoken, outgoing ponies in all of Ponyville. And you have Fluttershy trying to be her, who of course is very soft-spoken, very shy, not someone you would expect to be a stand-up comedian. You have Applejack trying to do Rarity's job of designing dresses, and obviously just failing so hard at that, because that is not something, you know, that's just like the exact opposite of her. And then you have Pinkie Pie trying to manage, you know, manage life on a farm, which that's probably the closest one out of all of them because of Pinkie Pie's history on the rock farm. But just given all of the chores and all this other stuff and tasks that Pinkie Pie has to do on the farm, it's totally just not for her character as we know her. See, is there anyone else I'm missing? Oh yeah, Rarity trying to control the weather as a Pegasus pony, and she just winds up making like checkerboard clouds and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I just loved how I think they really did pair each of the main six correctly with just their opposite talent from another main six member. Now, I will say, one of the things I've heard people complain about that I can sort of agree on is, for some of the ones, especially for Rainbow Dashes, I don't think they really chose the best thing for Rarity to be failing at, and that she's failing at weather control, which is, you know, one of Rainbow Dash's job as a Pegasus, but doesn't really have much to do with her talent. Like, you know, obviously Pinkie Pie's talent is laughter, so we see Fluttershy failing at making ponies laugh. Rarity's talent is being generous through, you know, her clothing design and stuff like that. We see Applejack failing at clothing design. For Rainbow Dash, her obviously her talent is loyalty and going, you know, what she's known for, going fast, you know, being very fast, you know, the fastest flyers in Equestria. And, you know, she's not really throughout the series known for doing weather stuff. So I think that one kind of could have been better. It probably could have been Rarity trying to do something with the Wonderbolts or something with speed or something like that rather than controlling the weather. I think they probably went with the weather one because it was a lot easier to do visually and show visually through the context of a song. But But that one was probably the most iffy of all of them.
It's mental
Rarity
image
should
of
have
like
failed at racing. Yeah.
I just have the mental image of like Rarity just like snapping like a pair of goggles over her eyes and quoting Top Gun. I feel the need for speed. Punch it. She just like goes driving off on a drag racer or something like.
Yeah.
And then she just like crashes off screen or something. I have no idea.
Of course, that brings to further confusion, figuring how they all got their cutie mark in the first place, and because if Rarity ended up getting Rainbow Dash's cutie mark, then who triggered the Sonic Rainbow?
Well, see, that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
in terms of that was that the spell changes their cutie marks and nothing else in the current time. So it's not going back and rewriting all of history. It's just like, what if it's pretty much the if we want to put what the spell did in the form of a question is, what would happen if we just switched all of their cutie marks around right now and all of the main six try to do the other main six's, tasks or use their abilities when they still have their original abilities. So that's kind of like what the spell was doing that I think a lot of people missed, was that it's not like rewriting all of their histories, and so we have to go back and think, well, how did Rarity get her cutie mark when she's obviously failing so much at doing what she's trying to do? But it wasn't that she didn't get that. It was Rainbow Dash who got the cutie mark, but we've switched it in their cutie marks in the current time, and then trying to watch them fail at doing the other pony's tasks in that after that spell's been cast. Yeah, they need to do the episode again, and have Twilight actually switch to, and have Rarity be switched into Twilight's role and see what happens. Kind of, probably something similar to what happened in Inspiration Manifestation.
Kind of reminds me of like several fanfic ideas or not just fanfic ideas, but like fan art ideas, fan comic ideas of particular ponies like swapping bodies. Like this one had like Twilight's mind and Rainbow Dash's mind swap bodies to where like Rainbow Dash is now in a unicorn's body, unable to fly but having access to magic, and Twilight having no access to magic at all but just being able to fly. And it's like, okay, how are they gonna fix this?
They're probably both gonna fail hard.
It's really interesting to note because there has been no shortage of like the idea of the fanfic premise of Twilight screws up a spell and hilarity ensues or something like that, long before the show actually ever made this into like an official concept. But
yeah, Technotron brings up a good point that this is not cutie remark. If you want one that actually is about rewriting history with the main six and their cutie marks, the season 5 finale was that. That's rewriting all of their history and then the outcomes of that. Twilight Spell didn't rewrite anything with history wise. It just changed who their cutie marks in the present day and kind of made them think that that's what they were meant to be doing. So I got to do it because that's what my cutie mark says. I'd like to think that the town didn't have any memories wiped or changed, and they're just looking at everyone and be like, "What the fuck are you doing, Rarity?" Anything else for the main 5 other than Twilight in terms of character discussion?
I really can't, to be honest, think of much of really what to say, to be honest. That's kind of upsetting to think about, really.
Well, I mean, talking about the other characters, I mean, the other main five don't really have a huge part in the episode other than what we've talked about. This episode is very much Twilight's episode, and very much focused on Twilight. Before we get to Twilight, anything anyone has to say about Spike? Because Spike does have a role with Twilight here in this episode.
I do like how they did kind of have like a bit of a minor little gag with Spike doing the side dance, if you will, the sort of Gangnam style dance that he was doing, especially considering how Sai imagined that was supposed to be like a sort of horse riding dance he was doing, and it kind of says something that the mares thought that it was cute that he was doing it.
Wait, was that in this episode? Oh yeah. It was. Yeah, you're right. I remember that was when Pinkie Pie was. I mean, when Fluttershy was failing at making ponies laugh. Yeah, I was trying to remember. I remember the moment, but I'm like, where was that? Yeah, Spike was doing his best. I mean, Spike was, kind of doing what he does best in this episode and being that supporting role for Twilight here. Can we just take a moment before we move on, because this doesn't really have much to do with anything in terms of our discussion outline. But what was going through the main six in Spike's mind when they execute this spell at the end after Twilight finishes it? All of them shoot magic out of themselves at Twilight, and then Twilight explodes and there's nothing but a charred spot where she was standing on the floor. Like, what is going through their heads at that time until Twilight goes back down?
You all to hell!
Goes back down from the sky. Holy shit, we fucking just killed our friend. That's the first thing that came to my mind watching this episode, was just like, after we see Twilight kind of come back down, is like, what were they thinking that entire time happened to Twilight? Oh.
They were planning her funeral.
Yeah. Yeah, she returned when it's dark, so there's some time that had passed there. I'd like to see that, like a lost clip from the episode. What were the main six doing? Why they thought Twilight was dead?
Them all just sort of freaking out in their own way. Like maybe like, I don't know, Spike and like Pinkie just sort of scooping up ashes or something, and in disbelief, and like trying like, we can fix her. Well, she'll be all right. And then they're like trying to like clump it all together or something like. I don't know.
Yeah, and then they go around telling Pony that, Twilight's dead. Then later that evening, Twilight's dead. Holy shit, she's back alive. But she's an Alicorn now. She's ascended into being Pony Jesus.
Oh god, she's a zombie. Get my shotgun.
If instead of her just like blowing up entirely, that she just sort of like drops over completely unresponsive, and we just get a sort of like an unseen episode of like the entire main cast just doing like a whole Weekend at Bernie's thing with her. just trying to pass off her dead body as like, being like, okay, yeah, it's cool, she's fine, nothing's wrong with her, whatchamacallit, Shining Armor comes down from wherever to see his sister, and she's like, no, you can't see her, she's fine, propping her up against the wall, like actually knocking her off a balcony.
Let's see if Twilight can fly. Let's see. Oh gosh, I'm trying to pull up this episode transcript here really quick.
It's Twilight. Yeah. Spike plays the one. Yeah. Spike just sort of telepathically like like using Twilight's body as a puppet or something like that.
Come on.
Can't stay from her too long or else, shoot her. Oh.
I think one of my favorite moments of the episode, story wise, going back here because I just wanted to say it before I forget it, is at the end when Twilight comes down and everyone sees that she's become an alicorn, and Fluttershy's like, wow, you look like a princess. Fluttershy's like, wow, you look like a princess, and Princess Celestia says that's because she is a princess. Pinkie Pie's like, hold on a second. She takes a drink and just spits it out. I'm just like, there's the entire fandom's reaction right there in Pinkie Pie, in that one moment when she spits the drink out there. I always like that because I think it's kind of signified most people's reaction upon hearing that news whenever they did hear about it.
The fact that she just summons a glass of water specifically for the sole purpose of drinking it and only to spit it back out just for the.
That's Pinkie Pie. I will also say that one thing I forgot to mention when we were discussing the elements and kind of the solution to the problem, Draconicus Media's the image he linked with Rainbow Dash and the element made me realize that there's an additional thing that caused the problem to be solved. In addition to what I mentioned with Twilight using her friends to solve each other's problems and using their talent and helping them realize their talent, in that moment when they're realizing their talent by helping their friend, she puts their element back onto them. And I think that also helps solve that problem because she's putting that element on right as they're recalling their talent and realizing what their true talent is, which helps that and finalizes that process by applying their element during that time, which farther signifies how I think that spell has just a lot to do with just the elements themselves.
I just see
Technotron. Everyone.
I just see Technotron's comment in chat, and I just hear the voice actor, Link's voice actor coming from Spike's mouth. Well, excuse me, princess.
He needs to say that at some point in the series.
Lee Weislick says it in exactly that fashion too.
So before we get to Twilight, one more character to discuss very briefly in her brief appearance in this episode would be Celestia. What does anyone have anything to say about Celestia in this episode?
Knows if you've been bad or good, or she'll punish you for her own. I don't know. I don't really know where I was going with that comment. I've seen too much fan art. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I mean, I think Celestia obviously I think knew that this moment would come eventually. She obviously saw a lot of promise in Twilight and really believed in her. So yeah, in this end you can tell how kind of.
And holy hell, yes, I do agree with Tech. Frickin' sing. We have not gone any other time have we ever seen Nicole Oliver actually bust out, a sort of a vocal rendition on that one. Or was that Nicole Oliver who did the sing? Either way, Celestia got a song and she freaking needed one, and she finally got one of her own.
I just remember one of those edits of the picture that Draconicus Media just posted there, where someone placed a lot of the videos of the flashbacks there with the YouTube video blog saying that this content has been removed by Hasbro for copyright infringement, and pasted that over a bunch of the videos as they were flowing through.
But yes, her own version of YouTube, apparently.
YouTube, as in Celestia is watching you.
Apparently, Alicorns had the ability to pull up episode footage right off the bat because Trixie did the same thing later. Well, she's not an Alicorn, but she had the amulet, but still.
Actually, anything else for Celestia? I mean, she obviously has a very small part in this.
That's all I'm gonna say. We just need more singing Celestia.
So, Twilight, character discussion for Twilight. Obviously, a bit discussed here. We've already discussed some of it. So, what does everyone have to say for Twilight in this episode?
My first reaction was basically to say, "Damn it, Twilight, you fricked it up again." But then I realized, oh wait, no, I'm just reading too many fanfics apparently. Because again, this was the first time we've actually seen in the official show proper where Twilight actually screwed up a spell, and she wasn't even intending to screw it up. She was just it just unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah.
Then again, I mean, to be honest, I mean, when is Twilight not adorable?
Yeah, and you gotta appreciate Spike in that moment when Twilight is at her lowest there, and helping bring her out of that slump.
Say, Twilight herself was just going. She was really cute, not just in the issue of causing the problem, but like right there at the very beginning of the episode where she was coming out, she was not only singing, but she was like getting on top of the table and actually dancing, and the waiter actually joining her. Feet and ankles are kind of bothering me here. All I'm doing is just sitting down.
I mean, I guess it was just it's just great seeing Twilight kind of conclude this part of her character arc here, and that whole scene in that Celestia song scene with all of the clips from past episodes showing how many things Twilight has gone through over the course of these 3 seasons, and how far she's come. Well, it was really an emotional kind of part of the episode. I really liked that, and just visually showing us how far Twilight has come since we were first introduced to her in the opening there, when she wanted to have nothing to do with friendship, and was really only focused on magic. Yeah, she has that picture. The picture is what finally kind of makes everything click to her. When we look at when she looks at the picture there, we even see that like spark in her eye again as she kind of links everything together and figures out the solution to the problem there, which is of course friendship. Exactly. There's not actually much character development in this episode for Twilight. This whole episode is the cap off to all of the character development she's got over the past 3 seasons there, and her being rewarded for that development and the effort that she had put in, and how she's grown as a character and as a leader. For it, so we finally get that we finally get her to achieve her goal. The thing is, what happens in this episode really isn't her goal. It was never her goal to be a princess or anything like that. But it was her destiny per se, being that she never set out to become an Alicorn princess, but it's what she deserved. What she deserved. She was destined to be that based on who she was. I think. And that's actually a point we can discuss, because I know one of the other main kind of questions or discussions that happened back when this episode premiered was kind of it's hard just for me to put into words how to explain, but people were upset or just discussing this whole situation where Twilight kind of never asked for this. She like I said, it was never her goal to be an Alicorn princess. It was kind of forced upon her, in this, where, it was never something she set out. She decided, I'm going to be a princess. I'm going to be a leader and stuff. And I think a lot of people were either upset or at least at the very least questioning that, because it just seemed like they were forcing this upon Twilight. Because it wasn't, even up into this episode, it wasn't, when the moment happens, it's not something that she asked for to happen.
Think I remember about how those who don't want power are the best appropriated, or who best fit that position, or best suited for that position, I should say.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I think, and related to what I was saying as well, I think one of the other complaints people said were kind of about the message it implies, in terms of you're kind of locked to your destiny and you don't have any choice in the matter. Kind of people are implying that, because she's destined to be a princess and she didn't have any say over it. She just became an Alicorn princess and took on this role with no say. So it kind of had this, people were saying that it has this bad message about how you can't influence your destiny and you can't change your destiny. Which I think is wrong, because it wasn't that Twilight chose to be a princess or anything like that. Even though it was her destiny to be that, she made that her destiny unknowingly. I mean, it's something that she was always meant to be based on who she was and who she wanted to be, but she just never knew it. She was always, very talented with magic, obviously has a lot of leadership skills, and throughout the course of the 3 seasons, all that stuff, especially leading the main 6, grew and grew, and she grew into a character that embodied what she got. At the point we reached this episode, she's pretty much already an Alicorn princess. I mean, she's obviously a pivotal person in Equestria. She and the rest of the main 6 have defended Equestria numerous times. She's, the leader of the main 6 of them. So it's pretty much, not much is changing here about her, except that she's given wings, because which come with the title. She's given the title, saying, "You have worked hard. You have shown that you are, that you want to do this, and this is the title." And she gained those wings, but nothing really changed about her core character. So I think it's one of those things where I don't really agree with it, because it isn't like someone just said, "Oh, you're a princess now. Here you go." It was, she made that her destiny, even if she wasn't actively seeking out power, like Mr. Ben was saying, but talking about seeking out power and stuff like that. I think a lot of people also kind of have a different interpretation of destiny that I do. A lot of people, I think, see destiny as set, and that's what you're when you talk about destiny, that just means what you're meant to do, and you're nothing but to change that. Well, I don't think that's true. I think your destiny is what ultimately happens. No matter what, time is linear, as far as we know. Time is linear, right? And we go forward in time. Your destiny is what you ultimately make of it. So if I grew up to be president, per se, that could have been my destiny. But that doesn't mean that was predetermined to be my destiny, and I had no choice in the matter. I could have became president because I was working towards that, or striving towards that, or something like it. So you can influence. Your destiny is still what it is. Your destiny is what winds up happening. But we don't know what's going to wind up happening. We don't know what our destiny is until after we've already set. You said it. If that makes any sense. It isn't just like your destiny is already set in the future, and you're working towards that. Destiny is what happens when you get there, after you've already put in whatever work and whatever direction you've set your life in. Destiny is what happens once you reach there. And so Twilight wasn't destined to be a princess from the beginning. Through what happened in the series, through what she did, and the influence she had and her character development, that became her destiny at that point. So when this whole thing is about, when Celestia is all singing about, it's time for you to realize your destiny, or whatever she says in that song, it's not that was already set for her. That was her destiny at that time, based on all the stuff that had happened in her life, and especially those past 3 seasons that we've seen. And that's how I've always viewed destiny when looking at this episode. Because I know a lot of people took that as time to realize your destiny, and Twilight has no say in the matter, and made an issue about that. When I think they're looking at destiny the wrong way by looking at it like that. And then now I've got to read through some of the chat here.
Yeah, I know that I know what Tim's referring to when he says Deep Celestia, but now I'm just thinking of Celestia just playing the deep note when she speaks, the THX deep note.
And yeah, Tim makes a good point. And I really like the writing that Megan McCarthy did into the season 4 finale to directly address that complaint when Twilight is talking at the end of season 4, when she's saying, like, I'm the princess of of friendship, and that's what I choose. She's something a line about that's what I choose to be, like, very directly saying, yes, this is my choice now. I want to do this. Just kind of to quell any further resentment towards that. I'd like that how they specifically put that in the season 4 finale.
Well, yeah, we all have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could be the princess security guards, but I don't choose that.
You can be whatever you set your mind to, Mr. Ben.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good view to have of destiny, because a lot of people see that. There's obviously a lot of psychological and philosophical. Gosh, I hate that word. Philosophical. Gosh, I don't know how I was stumbling over that word so much. There's a lot of philosophical, discussion on destiny, and if we have any say in our futures, or if time is already written for us. I'm a believer that that we are we can choose our path. In the end, I think time is what it is. Like I think time, if you want to look at it in a science fiction way, like time travel and stuff, I think time is set. As in, what happens in the future could already be set, regardless if it is or not. Let's just, for the sake of this, say what happens in the future is set. But just because what happens in the future is set doesn't mean that we have no influence or choice in life. The path of our future, of the world, of this universe, is set based on everyone's choices that they make every day. It isn't that we don't have a choice. We're making those choices. and that's what's influencing the future that is set. So it isn't like I'm doing this because the future is set. The future is set because I am doing this. That's how I've always looked at it. Yep. There's nothing wrong. Who knows if the future is set? Who knows how time works and all that kind of stuff? But there's nothing wrong with the future being set in what it is. It doesn't mean we're not making choices every day. It doesn't mean that, our opinions and our choices have no value, because we're just doing them because time says so. We're doing them because we believe in, and we believe in those choices, or those are the choices we've decided to make, and that sets time.
Come on there. Okay, there we are.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this. Sometimes it's like it'll be working fine, but then after a while it just starts sort of going kind of delayed. Now, I did try swapping it to where it'd be like hitting the press to talk as opposed to the voice activity, but it says I needed to actually download the desktop application and install it first. And I'm like, I don't want to do that while we're still in the middle of trying to.
You might want to try doing that later then. Maybe it might even work better as a desktop application versus doing it in the browser. Because I'm doing it in the desktop application myself.
Let's say I'm doing the in-browser thing, and that's why I'm like occasionally like refreshing on that just to sort of get it fixed up a bit. But yeah, I'm hoping that the desktop application doesn't take up a lot of memory. That's why I still use Slack on the desktop. Not the desktop, but the in-browser, because it doesn't use up as much memory.
It shouldn't. Both Slack and Discord are pretty much loading the web page in an application, but it's able to hook into your operating system more efficiently than your web browser can. So hopefully it won't be any more of a problem than open. It shouldn't be any more of a problem than having it open in the web browser.
Like I said, I'll try it a little later. So
yeah. Gosh, anything else for Twilight's character discussion here? Yeah, I mean, even Rarity's piece isn't off. I mean, Rainbow Dash does have a talent for doing the weather. It's what Pegasides naturally do, and it would make sense that Rarity wouldn't have that talent, and would be trying to do stuff with her, with her actual talent, like using magic to make fancy patterns in the clouds. It makes sense, but I mean, weather control is something that Pegasides do as a species. It's not something specific to Rainbow Dash. So while it still works, it's like I think it would have been better off if they would have chosen something that was more specific for Rainbow Dash's qualities, like they did for the rest of the cast. So yeah, totally agree there. Of course, it was nice. Of course, Twilight is very, very humbled, and she very surprised by what's happened too. I think it goes back to what Mr. Ben said earlier about the best leaders are the ones that aren't necessarily going out and looking for it. They're born to lead. They have natural leadership abilities, and they go out and they do it. But they're not going out there actively trying to be the leader. I mean, and the cool thing about this is this goes all the way back to Winter Wrap-Up, where Twilight was trying to find her place and fit in and fit in with the rest of the ponies and trying to help with Ponyville, when in the end she more or less wound up being the leader of the Winter Wrap-Up. She's the organizer, but she's the one that organizes all the ponies, and she's the one that leads them all. And that's really, in the series, our first glimpse at her leadership abilities, I believe, is the Winter Wrap-Up episode, where she's trying to fit in. She's not trying to be a leader. She's trying to fit in. She's trying to do her best. And in the end, her best quality and the way she's able to help more is being the organizer, being the overseeing everything, and being that leadership role. And so that kind of has a nice tie back to that season 1 episode. I did like how in when Twilight kind of gives her speech, she doesn't even really make it all about her. Gosh, I should bring up the let me bring up my transcript here of that, because she doesn't, did I close the page? Oh shit.
Class dark.
Out of habit, I've of course closed
I'm
the
sorry.
page. Let me bring the page back up. Thank you, browser history. My browser history, which is probably more pony than I'm willing to admit.
Her potential isn't the only thing that's gone untapped. Oh!
I don't even know the context of what you just said, but oh my god, that sounds so wrong.
Draconico's Media in the chat room said Rarity has so much untapped potential, and I couldn't help myself.
God. Oh my god.
I will see myself to the door.
Okay, so here's what Twilight said during her little speech here. A little while ago, my teacher and mentor, Princess Celestia, sent me to live in Ponyville. She sent me to study friendship, which is something I didn't really care much about. But now, on a day like today, I can honestly say I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for the friendships I've made with all of you. Each one of you taught me something about friendship, and for that I will be forever grateful. Today, I consider myself the luckiest pony in Equestria. And I really, really, really like that line. And it's not about her. It's not about, being that she's just like, it recaps kind of the series very nicely, and then just says that, I didn't want to learn about friendship, but in the end, friendship is what got me here today. And without friendship, I wouldn't be here. And without the rest of the main six, I wouldn't be here, which is really nice. And they kind of build upon that in season 4 as well. When the premiere and the finale, a lot of it is about how, Twilight's the princess of friendship now, but she's still nothing without her friends. She can try to go out on her own and do stuff on her own because she's the princess and it's her responsibility, and she doesn't want to put her friends in danger, etc., like we saw in the season 4 premiere. But in the end, even though she has all this power and all of this responsibility and the title, the rest of the main six are still very important, and she's still nothing without them. And even if she is the leader, it's required of all of them. And that's something that I really, really liked about the cutie map that they introduced in season 5, where, it's Twilight's castle, and she's the princess, but each of them sit around this table as equals on a circular table, no one above anyone else, besides Spike, who has a smaller chair. and they all sit at this table as equals to spread friendship and to lead, help lead Equestria as equals. And I love that that's where they went, because I know that's probably one of the main concerns a lot of people had going here, is how all of a sudden Twilight seems more important than the rest of them. Well, first off, Twilight's always been the main character of the series, no matter what you say, but they directly addressed that here and made it so she's still nothing without the main six, and the main six are not any less important after this episode.
Find it funny, however, that like you mentioned, that they're all equal, yet Spike still has like a smaller throne. I mean, I know it's probably more appropriately sized to his particular body shape, but it sort of comes across as the feeling of, like, Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Like, even when he's still on the throne, he still gets the short end of the stick. Poor Spike.
Hey, at least he can move his chair, so he can move it away from Twilight and over to Rarity. They're not set there. Oh, I still love that he did that. Oh, Spike, you're smooth. Oh gosh. Anything else for characters? I think it's about time to move on. We've been talking for 2 hours now. But that's why I didn't schedule anything else until 8:30. This is, like I said, this is one of the biggest episodes, if not the biggest episode of the series, just because of what it is. Well, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next part, which is, I believe, voice acting. Anything about the voice acting this episode that stuck out for anyone? I know the first thing that's going to be said, so go ahead and say it.
Okay, everyone was pretty much on point.
Oh no, that's not what I was gonna say. But I guess that would technically be the first thing that's gonna be said. I was more thinking along the lines that Celestia's voice during the song was amazing.
Didn't even think about that as like the first thing, but yeah, Nicole Oliver was yeah, she just stole the show practically.
I mean,
Just that one scene wonder, I think, is
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of.
yeah, I mean, this is a character that hasn't sung at all in the series, and then just boom, that's like, just beautiful. It was kind of, it was interesting in the swap scene. It was funny because like all of them still kept their personalities, obviously, and the only thing that changed was what they thought they were supposed to be doing. But it was kind of weird because we get to Pinkie Pie's part and she's singing with a country accent like Applejack. But Applejack was still speaking in a country accent in her part, so a little inconsistency, I guess. But it still was pretty funny hearing Pinkie singing that with that country kind of accent. In addition to her song, I think Nicole obviously just a great job with the kind of the speech she gives, like when I was talking about when they kind of gave the synonyms for the elements. That whole speech there was really good, and of course Tara throughout the episode, but especially in that speech that she gives at the very end of the episode there, well, it was very emotion filled and was acted very well. I would have loved to hear. That's probably my biggest disappointment of the episode, is that I would have loved to hear Ashley Ball try to do Applejack's voice in kind of like that fancy, upper class, New England or whatever accent that kind of Rarity has.
Do something like that.
I guess we can kind of hear that in Simple Ways, though, a little bit later.
I was just about to say, yeah.
So I'm guessing it would probably have been something like that. So, and we get to hear Big Mac do the same thing a little bit later in the series. Anything else for the voice acting? I don't really have anything else. I mean, I guess Nicole and Tara, just obviously it was mainly their episode. Their focus was mainly on on them, and they had the most dialogue. Especially Tara. So, they did a great job. Humor. So, what does everyone have to say about the humor in this episode?
Oh, let's see what we got here. Spike, like I said, we had the side dancer on that one. We had Twilight, going on to the restaurant, jumping on the table and starting to tap dance. I actually seen an edit where Twilight had like a pair of maracas or something like that, like in her
in a sombrero.
Yes,
I remember seeing that.
The first musical number, just coming off as a giant out of character moment for Twilight, because it's just kind of weird seeing her that cheery and energetic.
I loved how that whole opening song is such a juxtaposition to the rest of the episode. The whole song is everything's great, everything's fine, everything's great in Ponyville, nothing's wrong, everything is perfectly fine, and then it immediately ends with
just
like
Twilight
a
getting doused with
huge
water,
problem. Yeah.
Just the whole first musical number just getting stopped cold, song and everything.
Yeah.
Even the music just cuts out just with her getting doused with the water.
Yeah. Oh my god.
About accents, Pinkie Pie's southern accent was kind of pretty humorous as well.
Hoot.
Pinkie, yeah. Oh,
I was just saying, I just love the way that Pinkie Pie said hoot. It ain't such a heat.
Say Pinky just trying to push a plow, even though plows are meant to be pulled from the front, shaking,
Yeah.
shaking the water chute while being on top of it. Like, oh, that's not a
that whole
rescue
scene.
at all.
Nearly breaking her leg trying to kick the trees.
Oh, not only that, that was actually kind of cringeworthy. Not so much like in like a humor worth, but I see her try to kick the tree and bend her legs, and I'm just wincing, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that looks
her leg kind of bends the wrong direction there.
like, oh, that looks painful. Ow. I can totally feel that, and I'm like, I'm not even equine, and I could just imagine just that sort of unbearable agony. Ow.
That whole sequence there, for what my cutie marketing is telling me, is probably the main humor of the episode. I really liked Applejack's one when we cut to Applejack and she's trying to sew, and you can see just how horrible everything looks, and she sings, looky here at what I made, I think that it's a dress. It's just like that line made me laugh more than it had any right to. But I guess love how unsure she is about what she's doing. It's like she does. I think it's a dress. What is a dress?
We've already mentioned Pinky drinking the glass of water purely for the purpose of spit taking.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we mentioned the Rainbow Dash being put into a boiling pot by all of the animals. And my favorite part is at the end, Twilight, helps Fluttershy snap out of, and realize her destiny, and they start singing. And at the end of Twilight and Fluttershy's duet there, it cuts back to Rainbow Dash is like, hello, friend in need here, as she's still in the boiling pot of water the entire time they've been singing that first verse of the song. Nice little fourth wall humor there.
Rarity getting cutie mark back. She's like, oh, what a terrible dream I've had. Oh, or maybe I'm still having it.
And then the look that Applejack gives when she's like that, like that was great. And Tabitha, speaking of voice acting, Tabitha's delivery of that when she's or maybe I'm still having it. It was just so, just so on point there. It was delivered so well.
I can't believe we didn't mention this, but how like in the part where Pinky, spits out that glass of water that she had. Mm-hmm. Right after Twilight became an alicorn and they're all sort of reacting about it, Pinkie Pie just sort of swings in on a rope with a party hat, has a horn, and cardboard wings on her back, and she's like, alicorn party, and like she just comes out of freaking nowhere, like that dumb song.
I have to wonder if I have to look back. I wonder if the fake wings that Pinkie Pie has on there are the same fake wings that Derpy has in the Halloween episode from last season. Like if they reused the same asset there. Because I forgot that Pinkie Pie was wearing fake wings in this when she did that. Interesting to go see. If I can't find a brony problem, I'll be a brony problem. Of course, the whole thing of Fluttershy trying to be funny, and she's like puts on the Groucho Marx mask and all that basic humor kind of stuff. It was fun watching her fail.
I was wondering if there's a book she's supposed to read on the subject.
I did like Rarity's line. This isn't really humor, but I just like the writing of it when she says, "I'm in love with weather patterns," because weather patterns is a real weather term. I mean, that's real. Like weather patterns are cold fronts, warm fronts, all that kind of stuff, or weather patterns and climate. But here she's literally making weather patterns. She with the checkerboard clouds. I just thought that was such a fantastic writing of a double meaning there. It was really clever writing. And of course, because I just gave them frostbites over top of their sunburns. Ouch.
I love how like Twilight also summed up the situation with Applejack after Rainbow Dash's cutie mark was restored, which is like Applejack's trying to make dresses, and Rainbow Dash is immediately like, "Say no more."
The whole world is ending if that's the case. We must hurry.
Let's see. I looked through. I don't think Derby was wearing the same wings because Pinky's look like smaller cardboard pink wings that she had to tie on. Derby's were full size wings that fit over her arm.
Okay, I wasn't. I wasn't sure. Because being how the show sometimes reuses assets,
Yeah.
it was just something that I guess popped into my head. If I can get back into the chat here. Let's see. Anything? Oh, of course, the biggest meme to come out of the episode. Liquid Pride at the end with Shining Armor's small cameo at the end there. I think I still like. That was like one of the best things to come out of the episode was it's not crying. It's Liquid Pride. See, so dang, another stupid chat doesn't watch.
Image of just all this stuff going on, like Twilight just sort of explaining the situation to her friends, and she's like, Ponyville is just heading for disaster, biblical proportions, and like Dash is like, what do you mean biblical? And Pinky's like, what she means is like Old Testament, like real Wrath of Celestia type. Fire and brimstone coming from the skies, rivers and seas boiling, 40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes, the dead rising from the grave, ponies sacrificed, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Oh gosh. Any other humor, or while we're at it, any visual things, animation, visual humor? I think animation-wise, this obviously was one of the top tier episodes at the time. From the whole celestial kind of plain area that the Celestia song takes place in, with all of the clips from the episodes, past episodes, floating through as Twilight's looking at all how far she's come. That was great. The whole transformation kind of sequence there was great with some awesome lighting in it. You definitely get an appreciation for how well the characters are designed color-wise when some of their cutie marks switch and they just don't really fit well, color contrast-wise with what they're on, with the color that they're on the new body that they're on. So definitely have to appreciate the color design that goes into those. Oh yes, of course. The kind of the slot machine style eyes as each of the main six, or main five, as Twilight realizes what their true talent is again and regains their cutie mark, and it focuses on their eyes, and we see flash through like 10 or 15 different clips each within a period of a couple seconds in their eyes, which I think is a really cool effect as well. And each of those scenes it flashes to, something in an important moment for that character in the past 3 seasons.
well done too. Yeah, if a little gaudy in regards to like Celestia and Luna, they just look so out of bloody place.
I don't. Luna's like, I don't like wearing this dress. Thank God we don't have many royal coronations. Yeah, I always love seeing what they do with the dresses. I'm not one for dresses, but it sounds really weird for me saying this, but I do enjoy seeing all the design work they do every time the main six have to do some sort of dressy kind of thing, and how they make those costumes match their color scheme and their personality, and you know, and their cutie mark and stuff. And I really appreciate that the design work that goes into all these every time they introduce a new dress style in the series.
I was like, oh, how the dresses! I love the dresses.
I think, Tim, outside of Twilight's, I don't think any of the others ever have. As far as I know, there's always a chance it could have been, you know, a piece of snap-on clothing for some of the figures that I just haven't seen or have forgotten about. Because, you know, there's been so many over the years. But as far as I know, I don't believe any of them have. Yeah, we're gonna need. It's funny because for all the people that didn't like Starlight Glimmer, you got your unicorn to balance out the main cast again, right? So I know that's one of the things that I saw a lot of people kind of complaining. You know, not like really complaining, but you know, one of the things that people were a little annoyed about was that their perfect balance of all the pony races in the main six was broken now that Twilight had was an alicorn and had wings. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about this show is yeah, they do have things that they try and sneak in merch-wise that Hasbro wants, and they've said that they've done it, but they always I think they really manage to put them in there well. Either they don't make up a big point or they make them play into the story well. And I really think that Hasbro gets more ideas for toys from the show anymore than the other way around. The show has plenty of toy opportunities. I mean, look at the whole Power Ponies thing. I mean, they made a line out of that, and I don't think the Power Ponies episode I don't think was based around like Hasbro saying we're gonna make some Power Ponies toys, so we need you to have this Power Ponies episode, because the Power Ponies toys that they released are still in the stores, and they weren't released until well after that episode premiered. So I think that was more Hasbro saying, "Oh, that's a really cool idea. Let's make some toys, about it." Which I really like that they, I think the show is more along that than the other way. A lot of other shows would be more influenced by the toys, where this show I see a lot of toys new toys that are coming out. I mean, look at the new Guardians of Harmony line and stuff like that, which are clearly more influenced by the show and making toys based on the show rather than making the show based off the toys, which I think works better for everyone. And I'm glad to see that happen more and more often with the series too.
I have to agree on that. I mean, a number of shows where it was definitely merchandise driven, and just trying to shoehorn the products in. Just instead of making the show its own thing, you're basically making it into a half-hour commercial for these damn things, and it's annoying as all get out.
And I mean, and they still do stuff the other way around. Like the most recent one would be the Swan Boat, which was a toy that Hasbro wanted them to put in. But I know Big Jim has said in their interviews that Hasbro is very lenient. Like they'll send them requests of, hey, can you put this in the show somewhere? They don't tell them where or how. They just, hey, we need to, can you put this show? We're gonna have a toy based on it. But they're very, they aren't like very lenient on where it appears. Like I remember he was saying, like remember the in the Rainbow Dash episode from season 4, testing 1, 2, 3, when that copter made an appearance, and that was a toy from like a while back, and they finally put it into the show in that scene. But that had been, that was out for a while, so they're obviously not pressuring them to do it that right away or anything like that. And when when toys do make their way into the show, I mean, they usually get brief thing, like the Swan Boat this season appeared in season 3, and that was just kind of just something that was in the background. They didn't try to shoehorn it into the story or anything. It was just, it makes sense. They're in Manhattan. There's lakes in Manhattan, and in Maine and Manhattan, and there's swan boats usually on those lakes. So
I still joke about this, and you will laugh my ass off if it ever happens. But I remember back when one of the first toys that they came out with was Applejack's pickup truck, the sort of purple, the lavender truck, and it wasn't so much the truck itself that was kind of ridiculous, but the fact that it had a cardboard cutout of Unicorn Twilight in the bed. And I would love if they somehow introduced that into the show. Not so much the truck itself. The truck
cutout, yes.
I want to see, it has to have the cardboard cutout. That's all I want to see is just that cardboard cutout in the back of the truck.
Applejack is driving around cardboard Twilight. Please make it happen.
Applejack, you have to take the truck and Twilight down, but Twilight's not available. Here, take this dang cardboard cutout. Nobody will tell the difference.
They're going to a book signing. They have to have the Twilight cardboard cutout there. Oh no, there's plenty of toys and that's the one I'm talking about too. There's plenty of toys that have been made that have never made it into the show. I mean, look at Skyla, that's probably like the biggest example.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That never really made it. I mean, we have Flurry Heart, yeah, but it's not the same thing. And Skyla came out years ago, too. I mean, there's plenty of things that Hasbro makes toy-wise that just they never make it in the show, which is fine.
Yeah, exactly. When we first heard that, season 6, that Shining Armor and Cancer finally going to have their child, everybody was going to assume it was going to be Skyla, but then we got Flurry Heart.
Okay, I hate to rush things along, but it's almost, I just realized it's almost 8 o'clock, so we still have the biggest part of the episode to get through here, which is the songs and the musical numbers of it. So obviously, as I said, this is the first musical episode. The most music we've had in the series before this would have to be Season 2 is A Friend Indeed, which had 4 songs, the main song, and then kind of 4 other smaller, brief songs in it. But this was a musical in every sense of the word. So it was very much driven by the musical numbers, had a lot of musical numbers in it for most of the running time, and then just had some brief, dialogue bits in between each of those big musical number scenes. So I loved this episode just because of that, and that they were even attempting to do something like that, which was nowadays we have a musical episode every season. We kind of expect it now, but back then that was just so new and so unexpected and awesome.
Back when it was like saying, yeah, hey, friendship is magic. You know what we need? We need a musical episode. And I honestly thought that they never were going to do that. And then they fucking did. And I was laughing when I realized, oh my God, we finally have a musical episode. Yes. And like I said, that very fact alone is still one of the reasons why it is still my one of my favorite episodes. And yeah, I understand like you said, we have more musical episodes now, but just the very fact that they actually finally gave the musical episode that I had been joking for months at that point, because I legitimately never thought that they were going to do that, and then they proved me wrong.
So let's start. I guess we'll start with the first song here. So the episode opens up instantly with the song, like just right time code 000 starts this song here, which is I think a first for the series as of this episode. And we start out with the first song, "Morning in Ponyville," and I can tell you the first time I watched this episode, I don't think I knew it was a musical going into it. I don't think either hadn't been announced that it was, or I didn't know because I wasn't that involved in looking up anything spoilery at that point. But I knew from the moment that first note hit, I'm like, holy shit, I think this is going to be a musical episode. Because that first song is just such a typical musical song, a musical number. And especially one to open up a musical. It's sort of a homage inspired by the song "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" from the musical Oklahoma, which kind of deals with the same kind of context. It doesn't borrow that much from the melody of that song, but the context of the song is very similar. Where that song is the lyrics are "Oh what a beautiful morning, oh what a beautiful day, I have a wonderful feeling, everything is going my way," which is obviously very similar to Morning in Ponyville here. And I just loved how this opening number, it just lets you know it's going to be musical. It's so musical, not only in the song, but all the actions that appear on screen. Like we mentioned the tap dancing earlier with Twilight, and just how everything is so beautifully choreographed with all the ponies flying through the air and everything. I just love this song. I still when I listen to this song and I hear that opening, I can still remember just the feeling I had when I first heard this song during the episode, and seeing that epic camera fly through the clouds, because we start with this really grand opening to the song, and the camera flies through all of these clouds and all these multi-plane clouds, and then goes and zooms in on Twilight coming out of the opening her door and coming out of her treehouse. And I just love that. I love that moment so much. Just the music, the action, the ultimate, just the pan through the, zoom in through the clouds. It was such a different feel for the show, and it was something I really enjoyed as someone who's a fan of musicals. So let me just quickly here. Let's go ahead, and if I can get to the right screen here, I'll play this song here. If I can get my mouse to move. That's the first step. Oh god, there's so many songs. There it is. I can't hear the song. Give me 1 second. I know you all can, but I can't. Let me just quickly resolve this issue on my end here. And output the song to my headset. There we go. Now, let me listen to the song again, because at the beginning here, you can just hear that awesome intro this song has in this instrumental version. Awesome horns there and strings. It's a nice accordion in this song too, right there. Yeah, and Tegra Tremor is a good point. That's the other song this is kind of inspired by, both "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" and also the opening song. I forget what it's called. The opening scene for Belle. I think it's just called Belle. From Beauty and the Beast. That whole opening number is also very similar in context to this song here. So. And this, up to this point in the series, this was really the most quintessential kind of musical song that the series has had. We've had some other songs, especially in season 1 with Art of the Dress and the At the Gala song, which were actually inspired directly from actual musicals. But this one really just has that very classic musical feel, very, very kind of stereotypical, I should say, musical feel to it. That is just such a great way to start this episode. And if you know musicals, you know what you're getting yourself into just with this song. So we get to the next song here, which is, if I can get this to click, maybe? Maybe. There we go. And what my Q&A is telling me. So this is where we start to see how this episode is going to use the musicals, which is how musicals should be used, and that is to tell a story, to tell a character's inner feelings, and to do stuff that would either take a lot longer if it wasn't a musical, or just wouldn't be as entertaining, or pulled off as well if it wasn't a musical. So here we get through the whole problem. We get to see all of the main five, what the problem is, what the problem each of them are having, and it sets up the entire problem in this one song that is only a little bit less than 2 minutes long here. And we get through all of them thanks to this song. And this is what I'm talking about with fast-paced in this episode. It's not rushed, because it's a musical. They're able to get through a lot of information quickly and efficiently, rather than dragging it out through a lot of dialogue-heavy exposition scenes. We can just let them sing what they're feeling, what they're going through, and what's happening, rather than trying to tell us directly over long, boring scenes. And we get to see all of the main five, whereas if this was done in a dialogue version, we probably would have only seen a couple of them, and they would have had to imply or rush through the rest of them, or else it would get very boring very fast. So here's the instrumental for what my cutie mark is telling me. This is a little bit more of a traditional MLP song here. You can tell from the instrumentation here, especially with this part. I think I'll pause it here. One thing I really like about the song is if you listen to the instrumentation in this song, this instrumentation we're hearing now is very Pinkie Pie-esque, with that kind of those kind of kooky synthesized sounds in the background. Where it is actually Fluttershy's song, so it's nice because the backing music is for the the pony that the main six person is trying to emulate here. So Fluttershy trying to be Pinkie Pie. So the music here is kind of a little bit of an off-sounding version of Pinkie Pie's score, and we'll hear that as we go through each of the song characters. So here's Pinkie Pie for Applejack. I want to point that out right there is the instrumentation there. This is Applejack's song as Rarity doing Rarity's job. The instrumentation right there before she starts singing is actually part of Art of the Dress, from Rarity's song from season 1 there, which is a pretty funny musical callback here as we get to Applejack trying to sew, and then of course you'll notice the instrumentation here is very reminiscent of kind of a Rarity song, but it's a little off. Some nice brass for Rarity is Rainbow Dash here.
It's got to be my destiny. My destiny. It's what my cutie mark. Yes, it's what my cutie mark is telling me.
I must have accidentally chose the backing vocal version of that, but you can kind of hear some of the vocal harmonies in the song at the end there. So that gets us to probably at the time, this was probably my favorite song of the series, with Celestia's ballad being very close to the point where it almost was also probably is also my favorite of the series up to this point. But this song here was really something different than we've heard. It has a very, of course I'm talking about, I've Got to Find a Way here, and it has like almost like kind of like an R&B kind of feel to it with the bass to it and like the overall beat of it. It's a very emotional song sung by Twilight. It's great, and This one actually has an extended version that was released, so I'll play the instrumental here of the longer extended version of it. And it starts with this nice piano part to begin the song here. I love this piano part here. It's definitely one of the more poppy songs that we've got in the series up to this point, with the exception of the one from the season 2 finale. And here's where that bass drops in. Oh, shoot, no, we get one more. This is the extended version, so we get one more verse. And as you can hear here, the extended version here, when we get to the second verse here, it has this like very kind of very R&B-esque, like I said, kind of like finger snaps going on in the back here. Kind of build that on top of the original verse there. And here comes the bass drop to the chorus. Such an R&B beat to the backing there. That chorus is still one of my favorite parts of any song of the series. It's so emotional. I just love the chord progression of it, and just that overall feel. Growing up in the 90s with Disney and all the other animation features, the 90s always had the stereotypical R&B song in the credits. So it's kind of anything like that is kind of like R&B inspired. It's kind of nostalgic for me because of that. Which was odd, but I don't know. Just something growing up with that. So we get to I got a True Friend here, which again, just like the so I'll Find a Way was a character song, so that's exploring Twilight's inner feelings in a way that would be hard to do, or boring to do, or very exposition heavy to do if they didn't do that in the context of a song. And so we go to a True Friend, which is much like What My Cutie Mark is telling me, where this is actually a song that's progressing the story and showing us the conclusion of the problem in a quicker and more entertaining way. I can't imagine having this problem be solved the way it was, like I was talking about how complicated this was in terms of one character helping another character helping another character. I can't imagine this being pulled off very well, not in the context of a musical number. So let's quickly get into this, because we're quickly running out of time here. So here's a True Friend. Yeah, in terms of what Tim's saying there before we get in the song, I do like how how Twilight says there's no time to explain in it, which is like literally there is no time to explain. You just gotta get through the plot here. Again, this is more of a typical MLP song here with the guitar there. There's that very MLP-esque synthesizer there. It's very, very MLP. bit of banjo here and more guitars for Applejack's part. That synthesizer again for the chorus. And Rarity's part is just amazing here. That build up there of the drums and the arpeggios and the strings, that's so epic. Chord change. Get to Pinky here. A little bit of clavicle here, with like the hoof step kind of sounds in the back. I really like that Applejack hit and the vocals there. Ashley Ball does a great job there. And the big finish here. And the Pinky from all over town. But this ending here is so great too. So that big ending there, that song ends on such a so much energy at the end of that song, both on the visuals and the song itself, as it builds up at that big all the town chorus coming in. It's just a really fun ending there to it. And gosh, sorry if I'm going a little fast, but trying to get all this done before we have to sign off here in another 15 minutes. So. Let me get to the next song, which is the other kind of, I would say, bombshell song of this one, just in terms of just holy crap moment, is the Celestia's Ballad. And this one also goes into, at the end, it goes into a instrumental part, sort of like how in the season 6 musical, Luna's part was very similar to this. Hilariously enough, Luna's part solo in season 6's music episode was very similar in that it starts out with the song and then it kind of goes into more of a backing score behind some dialogue, but it's all one continuous piece. So this one starts out with Celestia's Ballad and then it goes into the transformation sequence flawlessly, and that's one of the benefits of this being this episode also being scored by Daniel Ingram. And this something I forgot to mention is this is the first episode where Daniel Ingram did both of the songs and the score for the episode versus William Anderson, and allows for stuff like this where the song and this backing score to the next part flow seamlessly into each other here. So here's the instrumental for Celestia's Ballad. Still one of the most beautiful pieces of music in the series. Starting out with some various reverb and some nice light piano hits here, and chimes. A little bit of synth choir here as well. Simple song, not just the piano here. It's So it's just like, I think one of the things I like the most about that song is just, we haven't had a Celestia song at all. In 3 seasons, all these songs in the show, and we've never had a Celestia song up to this point. And it just makes this song have so much more of an impact that we've never heard her sing before. And here we are at this apex of Twilight's arc, and this big moment of the show here, which could very well have been the series finale. And we finally get to hear her sing. So you know, since we've never heard this one character sing, this has to be a big moment, a big important moment to the series, and and that just makes this so much more worth it. And having Nicole Oliver's vocals just be so beautiful here for Celestia, it really makes the song just have a huge impact. Just because this is her first song, and they made her first song be extremely important to the series. We've heard her sing a few times since then, but here, it was so great that they held this off until now, because I thought that made this song and this scene have so much more of an impact. And got 2 more songs. We got Twilight's short entrance song here for Twilight, which is kind of, as a song itself with the lyrics are kind of bland because it's just an entrance song. But the instrumentation behind it's actually pretty good. So let's listen to that. And pause. There we go. And so finally, we get to the final song, which is a reprise of the first song, "Morning in Ponyville," but it's a reprise in the sense of the music itself, but the lyrics are different, and obviously the title of the song is different. "Life in Equestria" here. So let's listen to that. It's a much more grand version, like post-princess version of the opening song, which is kind of nice because it's nice juxtaposition in terms of where Twilight stands as in terms of her status in Equestria. The first song was a lot more simple, where this one has a lot more of an orchestral instrumentation, a lot of brass and French horns and stuff like that, and you'll hear it here. Same intro. There's that big ending to the episode there. And then there's also in the credits, they have I'm not going to play it, but they have a, brief clip of True True Friend that plays during the credits of this. Gosh, any quick thoughts about the songs? Really quick. Going a little over what I hoped. Mr. Ben, J.E., you still there?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, I think Mr. Ben may have having some microphone problems again. Mr. Ben, you there?
Yeah, really.
Not sure if he's there. I can see his thing lighting up.
All right, here we go.
There you are.
As I was trying to say, Daniel Ingram gets his paycheck for a reason. So.
Yeah, he definitely wrote most of this episode. Yeah, I mean, it was just great, and this is just—I'm so glad that they continue doing one of these every season, because it was something especially at the time, this was something just so different for this series, and also just for TV itself. I mean, there's not many in animation or outside of animation, not really many musicals that happen on TV outside of kind of episodes of shows that kind of do it for comedy. Like, you know, the whole point is that it's a, you know, the whole point is the episode's a joke because it's a musical. But here, I mean, it's actually like legitimately a musical episode. It's not done tongue in cheek or it's not the butt of a joke. They actually use it as a musical and as a device to tell this story. So it was something so new at the time, and something I really liked, and it's probably a good reason why I considered this my favorite episode at the time. I liked the episode regardless, but that's probably the main reason why I considered this my favorite episode of the time at the end of season 3 there. Just because of that effort and that amount of work that was put into this and how well they pulled it off. So quickly, let's get through some of the score. Like I said, Daniel Ingram also wrote the score along with Stefan Andrews, who was the orchestrator for the songs for seasons 1 through 4, and will also be orchestrating the songs in the movie as well. Before Caleb, he left the show after season 4, and Caleb Chen took over for seasons 5 and 6. But for this one, he and Daniel Ingram wrote the score for the episode as well, which is the exact same that happens for all the other musical episodes in seasons 4, 5, and 6, which helps a lot. Like I mentioned when we discussed both the season 5 musical episode and this past season 6 Christmas musical episode. It helps not only helps the songs and the dialogue bits, the shorter dialogue bits, flow together a lot better. It also allows them to both reprise some of the motifs that appear in the songs later, and also foreshadow some of the more motifs that will appear in later songs before they even happen. So we'll just quickly go through some of these things here. This is the part directly before what my cutie mark is telling me. When Rarity's explaining how she's always controlled with him. Goes into that song. And after that song, we get the part where Twilight's trying to figure out what's wrong, and this is before she goes upstairs and sings the I've Got to Find a Way song. So then this next one here is directly after I've Got to Find a Way, and this is when she gets the inspiration to how she's going to solve everything. And this is what I'm talking about here in terms of musical foreshadowing. Just listen to the beginning of this song, and you'll hear the true theme, the true friend motif, played in very sad motif here, before the song even actually shows. we get to I forget where this one is. Oh yeah, this is the part just before True Friend here, actually. This is when she's interacting with Fluttershy for the first time, before we actually get to the song. So then, yeah, we get to that part with Rainbow Dash in the pot. So here's the part just before, when Twilight's writing the spell, just before the commercial break, before Celestia's song. Some nice horns here. And so, and this next one is over Celestia's speech when she gives those kind of synonyms to the elements of harmony that I was talking about earlier. And here's another reprise of True Friend. And finally, we get to the music behind Twilight's speech here, which is another very kind of moving piece that takes us into the final song. There's a reprise of the Behold Princess Twilight Sparkle theme in the previous song. Okay, and that's all of the backing music. So you can see how they don't do it quite as much in this one since it's the first one, but as we get to the other musical episodes and future seasons, we hear a lot more of those songs intertwined in the score. But they do a great job here, starting out here, and yeah, it's just I just love everything about the music in this episode. So it definitely just shows how great of a show this is musically overall. So we are running a little bit over here, so let's just quickly get to the end parts here, and what's everyone's final thoughts here on the on the episode?
Still a great episode after all this time.
Indeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my favorite episode of the show anymore, but it's definitely still one of my favorites. And at the time, it really was my favorite. It was a great conclusion to Twilight's main arc and an opening of a new one. Had this fantastic music in it, and I love the context of this in a musical. I mean the problem it presented was an interesting problem, and I really loved the solution that they had to the problem. And just everything from the animation to the music to everything was just pulled off so well in this. So even if I did have problems with the story, I think everything else would still more than make up for it. But I still enjoyed the story. So, yeah. So with that, thank you so much for coming to Tripoli. Sorry we went a little bit over. Had to kind of rush through the end there. Unfortunately, even though we did give this like 3 hours to talk about. But like I said, one of the biggest episodes of the series, so we had a lot to talk about. So thanks for participating and joining us today. I'm not sure when we're going to have the next Triple E. The next Triple E, we will be talking about the movie, Equestria Girls, the first movie. So a lot to talk about then, unless we get to Season 6 first. If Season 6 resumes first, then that'll be the next episode we talk about after Season 6 is over or has another mini hiatus.